Hello, Serge here from the Backyard Driving Range with another question here, and this one comes from Roy Reed. And he says, when I met with Doc Griffin last weekend to work on my swing, he had me follow a similar routine. He emphasized the importance of picking out an intermediate target, close, 6 to 12 inches max from the ball, you know, blade of grass or whatever can stand out in front of you, that is correctly aligned with the intended target and squaring the club face to that point. Then make sure you swing along that line. To trigger my master setup process, I use GBS APS, or grip, ball position, stance, alignment, posture, and swing. Okay, just hope you can do that in a fairly good amount of time, because we know that tests have shown psychologically and through your mind that after you say take a practice swing, where I say feel the swing and then set up and swing the feel, you have to be swinging in about 10 seconds before that feeling you just created in your practice swing and felt and what you want to reproduce fades away. So I got no problem with GBS APS as long as you can do it fast enough where you don't get out of that zone where you've lost the feeling, because it washes away pretty quick. One problem I had was standing too close to the ball. Hence the importance of properly soling the club first, then make your setup and adjust your distance to get the hands directly below your chin or mouth for every club. Now, we've been talking about this a lot, and I've done some dailies on this, and that's where I say that you stand up to the ball and you try to make the same setup with every club. And so when I bend over and get into my posture, my arms hang straight down. Now naturally, as I go from a wedge and 7-irons, which would be directly under my chin, and my hands move forward like this, they still have to stay at a point that if the line comes up, it's still underneath my chin. All right, and that's that's so that we know that our hands are basically in the same position every time. Now, Roy goes on to say, Doc pointed out that one way to tell if your distance is correct is to check your forward wrist. It needs to be flat and in line with the club shaft. If it's bent up, as mine was, you are too close to the ball. Now, one more thought he's saying about that is, and before I go, I'm going to read his last statement because this is going to be like a double lesson here. He says, one more thought on alignment. Even though I thought I was, and he got I thought in parentheses, was aligned parallel left, I wasn't even close. Hence the importance of using very close intermediate alignment point on every shot you make. Hopes this helps a little. Okay, so first we're going to still stay with this proper arm position at address. Now, left wrist should be relatively flat, in line, up and down with from the club head up the shaft all the way to the shoulder, so that the club is somewhat pointing about your left hip socket here. Now, what Roy was alluding to was that he had in standing too close to himself, and the hands came in too close. The left wrist became cupped. All right, and that's a good way of looking at it, because if you stand too close, you very likely will have your hands will be actually really laying on your body, and you could have your wrist arched if you're too close. But if you just try to get your hands down, keeping it flat, it'll start to cup. Another major cause of cupping is also a fact of if you bend over, if you start getting a little too droopy or hunchbacked, you can get down here and your wrist will get really cupped. So that's another thing that can cause being cupped. In that case too, your hands will likely be too close to you, well inside the lead thumb knuckle here on the forward, the left hand will be way inside your chin to your mouth. Naturally, the other opposite of that is to start reaching too much, at which point your wrist can stay flat, but look where if your left thumb knuckle starts getting outside of your chin to your nose, you know you're reaching. And as I've discussed in other videos about this, the reaching causes your arms to get stretched out there. It pulls the muscles longer, which gives a sense of strength and that you can really hit the ball hard and long, because it feels strong and it feels powerful. I guess those are two good words, strong and powerful. But unfortunately, you're out of balance, because to try to lift the club in and catch it mitten up the tree, you'll be out of balance and you'll likely fall forward, and that'll cause you to have to stop pulling the club inside. So when you get in that posture, just bend over, do the accordion effect, drop the hands down, and make sure that they're dropped straight down. They basically feel like they're hanging straight down. And if that's correct, when you look down at your hands, you should see the relatively flat wrist with the club pointing, with the shaft of the club in line all the way up to the left shoulder and pointing somewhere towards your left hip. Do all that and things will be good. The last point again is I'm going to say about alignment. As you know, the biggest issue with alignment is Many of us are working diligently at it. We're finding those spots. One of the critical things is to make sure that your spot is correct. It's very easy to stand here and even picking a close spot, kind of just your eyes zoom it from your eyes just zoom down, see the spot and run out to the target. But if that spot's just even 1 inch off, it flares or fans out about 10 yards every 100 yards. So that's why you really have to need to check it. You see a number of pros on tour, Justin Rhodes and Robert Carlson. They're really diligent at taking and lining that spot up all the way to the target. You see them doing this all the time. Heck, you even see them doing it on putts. And because spot's only good if the spot is on the line. Just remember that. Spot has to be on the line, and if it's off that line and you line up perfectly to a wrong spot, you're lined up to a wrong target. All right? So the key is to make sure you find that spot, and ultimately I think in the end to make sure that when you line up, we tend to look down, but I think one of the most important things is to check your toe line and make sure that your toe line's parallel left. Because again, many times we get in there and we think our body's pretty good, but we walked in and got our feet down improperly in the 2-step, and probably in some cases go to 3, 4, 5, and 6 steps where you dance a little bit and you're going to be out. So maybe check your toe line, and then once you're confident your toe line is left, you want to feel that right, all the other lines from the knees, the hips, the shoulders, and your eyes are parallel left too. But again, the setup determines the motion. This is all about setup in terms of finding your spot to make sure that you're lined up properly, and then ultimately when you take that last look down and check your alignment lines, make sure you're checking your left wrist, your forward wrist, to make sure that it's relatively flat and in the right position underneath between your chin and your nose for your thumb. Okay? Well, setup determines the motion, so if we want good motion, we have to have a good setup. So let's start paying attention to our fundamentals, especially your grip, your arm hang, and your alignment, and you'll start hitting the ball much more consistently, solid and straight, and shooting those lower scores. That's it from the Surge for today, and I'll be talking to y'all again soon.